Hey everybody out there, welcome back to the channel. It's Chris here from JMNC Games, and today we are taking a look at the time travel game Trekking Through History. We're going to take 3 days of journeys through different time periods throughout known history. It's going to be fun. Let's do it. The game is for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, and the average game time is just about 30 to 60 minutes. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel. We greatly do appreciate that, and it sure does help us grow. And if you feel so inclined, if the video has helped you in any way, you can support us directly by visiting the application Buy Me a Coffee, and you can do just that. We sure do appreciate all you supporters out there. Now let's dive in and take a look at what's inside the box. There are 108 history cards, which can be separated into 3 piles, day 1, 2, and 3. 12 Visit Your Ancestors cards, 1 clock, the itinerary boards, the play board, 4 watches, 1 for each player, along with player markers and the crystal tanks, and the experience tokens and time crystals. You'll also find time warp cards, which are used by more experienced players but not necessary for the standard game. To set up, place the board in the center of the playing area so that all can reach. Take the Visit Your Ancestor cards and place them here. In a 2-player game, place 6, 3-player game 9, and a 4-player game 12. Shuffle the Day 1 deck of historical cards, then place them here. Take the top 5 cards and place 1 in each slot here on the player board. Shuffle the Day 2 and Day 3 stacks, but keep them to the side for further rounds. Each player collects their color pocket watch, time crystal tank, and score markers. Place your score marker on the number 0. Each player should collect 1 time crystal and place it in their tank. Each player should be dealt 4 itinerary cards. Place the clock to the side of the playboard. Each player places their pocket watch on the starting position. The player going first is on top, followed by the next, and so on. So that's the setup. But before we get into the gameplay, let's take a look at different items so you know how they work. First, we'll start with the experience tokens. There is person, event, innovation, and progress, or as I like to call them, red, blue, yellow, and green. These purple ones are wild tokens, and they can be used as any other token. Your itinerary cards. Along the top, you will see the different experience tokens needed for this card. Each slot on the card is a place where you can put that experience token, or a wild token. You always place a token in the top most available space and work your way down. Any spot that has this symbol will collect you victory points. In this example, if you collect all 3 of these spaces, you will collect these victory points. Anytime you cover one of these spaces, you collect a time crystal and place it in your tank. Next, let's look at the history cards. Across the top, you will see a description of the event pictured. Below that is the year the event took place. Here at the top right is the deck that the card belongs to. The pocket watch indicates how far you must move your pocket watch on the clock if you choose to collect this card. And in the bottom right are the experience tokens that you collect if you choose to collect the card. The ancestor cards are practically the same, except that they are wild, so they can be placed after any date. You collect a wild token, which you can choose to use anywhere on your itinerary card, and the number of spaces that you will move on your pocket watch. Now we'll look at the board. The scoring track is here, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Here are the 5 cards that you can choose from to take on your turn. When you collect one, not only do you collect the experience tokens on the card, but you will also collect whichever item is listed in that slot below. Over here on the far right is a point reminder of how long a trek you are able to make. A trek is a collection of cards that are in historical order. The more cards in your trek, the more points you collect. But we'll cover more about that in the gameplay. The clock keeps track of the days. Each player at the start of the day begins here and does not end until all players make it back to this point. You cannot pass this point. Once you land here, you do not take any more turns until all players have made it back. If you are able to land here exactly without having a surplus of movement, you collect 3 bonus victory points. Now let's get into the gameplay. How to know who goes next. Whichever player's pocket watch is the furthest back is the player who goes next. If 2 players are both the furthest back, then the player who is on top goes next, then followed by the player who is underneath. So turn order will change often. On your turn, you have 5 steps. First, choose a card. You may pick one of the 5 available cards or one of the ancestor cards. Next, move your pocket watch. Look at this space on the card and move your watch that many spaces on the clock. During this part of the turn, you can choose to use a time crystal or more that are in your crystal tank. Each one that you use will allow you to move 1 less space. However, you must always move at least 1 space in a turn. For example, you have 2 time crystals. You take a card that allows you to move 2 spaces. You cannot turn in 2 crystals and move no spaces. You can only turn in 1 and only move 1 for that turn. You cannot use crystals that were collected during that turn. Next, you're going to collect your benefits. Collect all of the experience tokens given to you from the slot plus what was on the card. Take these tokens and place them onto your itinerary board or, if crystals, in your tank. Once complete, now place your card into your trek. A trek is the main way to collect points in the game. The cards must be added in chronological order. If you choose a card that does not follow in chronological order, then that is the end of your current trek. Take that pile and move it horizontally. Start a new trek with the card that you've collected. If the card does follow chronological order, then stack it on top of the current trek. And then finally, you're going to reset the board. From the slot you have removed the card, slide over the remaining cards from left to right, taking the top card off the deck and replace it into the remaining slot. This ends your turn, and now it's time for the next player to go based on their position on the clock. Anytime a player covers or completes a scoring item on their itinerary board, they immediately move their scoring marker on the scoring track. If a player is able to land directly on the punctuality space without going over, they also collect points immediately on the scoring track. Play continues until all players have returned back to the start. Once this happens, it ends the day. Remove all of the Day 1 cards remaining on the board. Place them to the side. Collect the Day 2 cards and set them up as you started the first round. All players clear their current itinerary cards of experience tokens and return them to the tray. Discard the current itinerary card and collect a new itinerary card for the next day. All pocket watches should be back at the start, and now you continue the game. If you are still working on a current trek from Day 1, you can add cards from Day 2 so long as they still follow chronological order. Play this round the same. At the end of Day 2, do the same with Day 3. And then at the end of Day 3, this ends the game, and it's time to do the final scoring. Each player will now look at their treks that they have collected. Count the number of cards in each trek. However many cards are in the trek, you move your scoring marker based on the scale here on the right side of the board. After you have scored all of your treks, if you have any remaining time crystals, collect 1 point for each crystal. Whoever has the highest score is the winner of the game. If there is a tie for the score, whichever player had the single longest trek is the winner of the game. And that's how you play Trekking Through History. Thanks for joining us today. We sure hope you enjoyed our short explanation on Trekking Through History. If you've got any questions, drop them down in the comments below, and I'll try to answer those as quickly as I can. And while you're there, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. We greatly do appreciate that. It sure does help us grow. And again, if you want to support us directly, you can always visit the application Buy Me a Coffee. So now we know the basics. So let's play.